Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. So, as I stated almost a month ago, Israel is now in a three-front war. As I stated before, some of the things that Israel has gotten itself into with a lot of the neighboring Middle Eastern countries, the new on the horizon is Lebanon, because the Lebanese government is now publicly warning of an all-out new war with Israel after another round of Israeli airstrike killed dozens, including civilians. Now, Israel is trying to attack terrorists out of these neighboring Islamic countries, but nonetheless, as you are attacking these groups of people, we have to understand that a lot of innocent people are getting harmed as well. And so the governments are now coming in stating that this could be potentially a new war. I'm on neither side. I'm not on Lebanon's side, neither Israel's side, but I will say this. The reason why this is a hot story for Americans because America will be funding this war just as well we have with the war against Hamas because of the terror strike back in October, nonetheless. Now, they have been killing dozens of Lebanese citizens. Tensions along the Israeli-Lebanon border have escalated into what many see as a second front to the Gaza conflict. Hezbollah is retaliating, and the Israeli military states that it's targeting militants, but the international community is bracing for a regional explosion. This isn't just Middle Eastern politics. This is about global power positioning and how people around the world are viewing this. So it's important that Americans stay very focused on what's going on internationally as American tax dollars are fueling and funding a lot of these wars. And as I stated before, we have a lot of these neighboring countries that Israel has gotten itself into a war with, not stating that it's Israel's fault or Lebanon's fault. Again, I don't want us to really focus on whose fault it is. But because we are allies with Israel, we are in this war one way or another. It may not be militarily as far as troops on the ground, but we are in this war economically. So nonetheless, we could be saving money by calling out fraud, waste, and abuse in the American government, but we are still using tax dollars for wars that America has nothing to do with. We are just supporting our allies. Now, and again, when we had these allies of America, whether it be Ukraine or Israel, and countries within the United Kingdom, countries within NATO, countries within the Europe nations, have they ever taken a poll or a vote? You know how we had these elections, whether it be local, state, or federal, every 2 to 4 years, we have these elections of politicians that we want to put in place. Have they ever did a vote to ask Americans, right? We just a general vote. Do Americans want to support the war against Ukraine, the war with Ukraine and Russia? Do Americans want to support the war with Hezbollah or Hamas and a lot of these countries like Lebanon and Palestine with Israel? Have they ever just did a vote, or did the government state, well, you voted for us and we stated that these countries are our allies, so we're going to use your tax dollars to fund these wars that we don't have any say-so in? American people don't have any say-so in. So this is very important that a lot of these stories that we cover, that we keep our eyes on, because it's just not fraud, waste, and abuse of government, democratic, liberal officials misappropriating funds, but it's also no matter who's in office, whether it be the conservatives or the liberals, the Democrats, the independents, or the Republicans, it really doesn't matter. They're still using American tax dollars because we have selected and elected these people to be put in place. A lot of people are going to try to weigh in on who's right and who's wrong. Well, Israel is right because they're trying to attack the militants. Israel is right because they're trying to attack the terrorists. That is not my focus. The focus is the bottom line. How can we live a better life in America if our tax dollars are being utilized in other countries? It makes me think about the country I'm in now. That's why I'm broadcasting very early when it comes to the United States of America, but here is roughly between 3 to 5 p.m. The country I'm in now is very, very safe. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to the American mindset, predicated upon the Second Amendment of the Constitution, none of these citizens here can own firearms, but yet it's one of the safest countries in the world. I digress. I don't want to harp on that too much because I go into a rant, and I haven't went on a rant in a very long time. So I won't do that this morning. I'll try to stay focused as much as I can. I want you to see this next story that I'm about to cover here, because this story is also a story out of Venezuela, because Venezuela has agreed to repatriate its immigrants after cutting a deal with the Biden administration. Thousands of Venezuelans who crossed the U.S. border illegally could now be sent back finally. But here's the kicker, folks. This isn't about broader control. It's a political move to save face ahead of the 2025, 2026 elections. Because after letting millions pour in, now the U.S. wants to pretend it's tightening its borders. And that is why Donald Trump has become president of the United States. Is because when the Democrats were in office, these were some of the promises that they made, but they never fulfilled. So these are the questions that are reeling. These are the questions that the American people are asking themselves. Now, a man from Arlington, Texas, was deported to El Salvador accused of gang affiliation with a Venezuelan gang, but his family is crying foul. His sister says he's never been in a gang and that the government has the wrong man. This speaks to a larger issue, because the chaos and racial profiling baked into the immigration enforcement. Meanwhile, how many actual cartel members are being flown into cities under asylum policies? American immigration system is absolutely broken. The American immigration system is absolutely broken. Countries from around the world, when you enter a lot of these countries, they take your fingerprint, they take a photo picture of yourself. And a lot of these countries, even the US, they have CCTV cameras throughout the entire country, on the bus systems, on the street. If they have subway or trains or rails, they have cameras absolutely everywhere. There's really nothing you can do wrong. But in America, there's pockets, there's areas and regions, there's cities and towns and local municipalities that has no CCTVs. Because again, we are so worried about freedom. Now, freedom to do what? Because I love America, I probably would never move to any of these countries, even though they're absolutely, a lot of these countries, whether it be Singapore, Malaysia, Switzerland, Finland, Iceland, Greenland, uh, Japan, all these countries, Korea, are 100 times safer than America. But yet, America is a melting pot of different people coming for opportunities. Why aren't they going to these other countries? Because these other countries aren't allowing scams and crime and murders to happen at a very high percentage. I want you guys to just research the top 10 safest countries in the world. That's what I want you to do. I want you to research the top 10 safest countries in the world. That way you guys understand exactly what I'm referring to. That way you can understand the ideology about what I have, because can America ever get to the top safest country, the top 25? The very fabric of America, the very infrastructure of crime and production. I'm just going to name a bunch of random things because this was America is. It's high crime. America is high crime. Now, there are certain pockets in America that are very safe. Certain areas in America is very safe. But nobody from one of these other countries will ever come to America and say it's safe. They would never, especially like a city like New York. It's so contaminated. It's so contaminated with crime. I can't even just get the words out. No one is just walking down a unpopulated alley in New York City. No one's doing it. It doesn't matter in New York City, any of the 5 boroughs, upstate New York. And I'm not just harping on New York. You can look at Illinois, okay? You can look at California. Crime is written all throughout America. And I stated this before. The very fabric of American culture has been changed, not only because of illegal immigration, but because masses of amount of illegal immigration and people who come over on visas. Not stating that America is not opening its arms to all these other people. But again, when you have a certain population of people that start to outgrow American citizens, the very fabric of American culture has changed. Now, some people will argue with me that American culture have always been criminal, and unfortunately, I couldn't disagree. But to label this man not to be affiliated with Trinidad Aragua or any Venezuela gang, I want to dive deeper into the story because Michelle Sarabia Gonzalez listened as he cried during their calls and watched his cheeks become more hollow. On March 16th, his sister saw a video showing migrants who were sent to El Salvador under a wartime measure. President Donald Trump had signed on March 14th. In the video, men sit in white t-shirts with shaved heads and face masks. One of those men looked directly at the camera. They couldn't stop crying. I feel like crying all the time, Sabria said. In a phone interview, her brother, they believe, was among the 261 deported to El Salvador on March 15th under the Alien Amnesty Act of 1798. Trump says the law gave him the authority to immediately deport those believed to be members of the Trinidad Aragua gang without being seen by an immigration judge. Was this man affiliated with the gang? Was he affiliated with a cartel? I wonder how this is going to unfold in the courts because they have a lot of federal judges that's kind of combing through this new Alien Amnesty Act of 1798. And on one of my posts on my YouTube channel, I kind of gave a breakdown how this could have legal means to deport illegal immigrants and those violent illegal immigrants inside of America. So that's important as well. Now, a massive crowd of 30,000 showed up in Denver to rally behind Bernie Sanders and AOC as they push a progressive reset in American politics. Medicare for all, Green New Deal, student debt cancellation. Sound familiar? Yep. The same promises that we've heard in 2020 and 2016 and even back in 2012. Yet here we are again. So if progressives want our votes, they better start coming through with a lot of these promises of student debt cancellation, Medicare for all, the Green New Deal. Here's another question. Have they ever just took a vote? Have they ever just sat down and thought about what do the American people want? Now, I'm pretty sure whether you claim yourself or you change your status to be a Republican, to be an independent, or even to be a Democrat, that people from all sides will want student debt cancellation, but at what cost? It's almost like going into a car dealership and you pick yourself up a 400 LS Lexus, or you pick yourself up a Maybach made by Mercedes, right? These vehicles are over $100,000. Like a Maybach, I think is anywhere between $300,000 to $400,000. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years, you've been paying on this vehicle for about 2 or 3 years, and the government said, you know what? We understand how high vehicle prices are in America, but we're willing to cancel the debt. Is that fair to those who paid off their very expensive vehicle, or in this case, paid off their very expensive student loans? Then people say, well, how can you make it? How can you be competitive in America without going to college, without having a license, without having a certification, without uptaking a trade? It would be very difficult. But at the same time, America have a lot of community colleges, a lot of state colleges, a lot of local colleges that are very, very less expensive than a lot of the well-known colleges that you heard of. And this Florida State University, Florida University, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Brown. I'm just naming different colleges. California State University, University of Southern California. We have all these colleges and universities in America, and they're astronomical in price. Penn State University. I'm just naming various colleges, guys. But some of these colleges cost on the upwards of anywhere from $35,000 to $50,000 every single year. So after 4 years of just getting a measly bachelor's degree, you're probably $150,000 in debt. $150,000 of debt. And some of you have paid off your college loan. Some of you are paying off your college loan. And you will love for the government to come in with a magical pen and alleviate and wipe away all your student debt. But I say, should all the other people of America get some sort of rebate? Maybe they'll give us 10 grand if they're going to wipe away $40,000, but no. But this is what the Democrats are running on once again. This has been a failed strategy. Now and again, if they can get enough votes, whether it be in the Senate or the House, to come through with some of this legislation, I can see them gaining a little bit of traction. But nonetheless, this is some of the same things they had on the ticket when Kamala Harris was running. And guess what? She was no way close to being elected as the president. So they may want to come up with a different strategy. I don't care how many people turned out. Now, a lot of these people are just mad at Trump because he's dismantling in some form or fashion the U.S. government, which he believes a lot of these federal organizations that the federal government has gotten too large, the federal government has gotten too big. And so like the Department of Education, he's trying to dismantle that and leave it up to the states. Roe v. versus Wade, overturning abortions in America and leaving that up to the states. Because some people are like, oh, he's totally gotten rid of abortions in America. No, he didn't. He left the decision up to the states. So there's some states that still allow abortions. You may have to move or just get an appointment if women want to get abortions in those states. And then other states say, no, we're not going to have abortions. So again, a lot of these things constitutionally, Trump is leaving to the states to make those decisions. So again, that is important as well. And a lot of people are just crying foul because they're just trying to lash out for some reason because they're not getting what they thought they was going to get when they voted Donald Trump into the White House. Now, the FBI has issued a national alert that Americans are being bombarded by a new wave of Chinese-backed cyber attacks targeting smartphones. These aren't random hacks. These are state-sponsored digital invasions, aimed at surveillance and disruption. Whether it be your iPhone, your Android, it really doesn't matter. The message here is to protect your digital privacy because we are entering a new cold digital war era where your personal data is the new battlefield because China, over the past two elections, through different means, whether it be social media, whether it be ads or advertisement, TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, all these different apparatuses and social media platforms supposedly have been gauging the American public and pushing propaganda due to whatever president they believe would benefit China in the long run. So Donald Trump has publicly come out many times stating that he has a great relationship with President Xi. I wonder if President Trump is going to sit down with President Xi, other than talking about trade, but talking about the infiltration of the Chinese government and influence the American people. And I know other countries from around the world, other people from around the world stating how Americans can be so dumb. How can they be so easily influenced? Not all of us are that way, but unfortunately, it looks as though there's a great many that are that way. And because as you look at American politics and how the public responds to American politics, it's almost like the stock market. It's very emotional nonetheless. And hopefully we can start to divide. We can start to separate fact from fiction because that's what it seems to be. But yeah, if you guys don't have antivirus software, if you don't have any sort of I know I use Norton. I use Norton on my cell phone here. Antivirus software, VPN, firewalls, so your phone can't be easily hacked. Most people walk around with no antivirus software, with no VPNs or anything. And a lot of phones nowadays have embedded VPNs. There's a lot of websites that have embedded VPNs and firewalls. So you may want to look into that as well. I don't want to promote any of the ones that I use because I'm not getting sponsored. But there's many out there that are free and some are paid services. But I just want to make you guys aware of what's going on currently because I think that's important as well. Now, the Pentagon scrambled this week to remove and then restore content related to DEI. for DEI initiatives after political pressures from conservatives. First, they stripped down the website, then quietly some of it returned. The military is now a battleground, not just for wars abroad, but for the culture wars at home. And guess who's always last on the agenda in these DEI debates? The American people. And this is why symbolism won't save anyone. We need policy, not performative progressiveness. And that is what they have been doing. Now, on one end, show us how DEI initiatives have hurt the American people and how the merit-based system will replace DEI initiative and how that will benefit the American people. And I think the whole contrast of showing the pros and the cons of both will leave the American people more safeguarded and have a sense of stability of how we'll move forward without affirmative action, without DEI, so on and so forth. And this is simply pertaining to the military itself. So these is some of the things that I know that a lot of people want to see here, but nonetheless, these are the things that we absolutely have to follow. Now, Ukraine and Russia have agreed to a limited ceasefire in certain regions. But let's be clear, this isn't peace. This is a pause. This is simply a ceasefire. As I stated before, hopefully we can hopefully we can reach a peace agreement. But the ceasefire, brokered under the EU pressure, focused on humanitarian corridors and civilian evacuations, not an end to the war. Don't let the headlines fool you. Billions, billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars are still flowing into this conflict, while domestic issues like housing, healthcare, and urban infrastructure rot. When will America start to invest in our own communities the same way they bankroll Israel, the same way they bankroll Ukraine? When are these American dollars that we're supposedly saving by Doge? Okay, we're going into the nooks and crannies and the cracks and the waste and the fraud and abuse and the corruption and the deep state government. When we're going to see some of this money actually be invested inside of America? Whatever happened to high-speed rail? Whatever happened to organizing the very infrastructure, having better water filtration plants, having better sewage plants, having better, safer neighborhoods by using safeguards of CCTV cameras and LED lights around little small towns and big cities? When we're going to see all the billions of dollars that Doge supposedly is going to save the American people? And I'm not saying that they're not doing that. I'm just stating, when we're going to stop funding all these foreign wars and start seeing improvements in America? As I stated before, I'm in another country, and I'm not saying this country is better than America, because I don't believe that, but they do a lot of things right. They do a lot of things right. And the one thing that I know everybody will love is a safer America. But again, the American people, we have to want America to be safer. So when we're talking about all these programs, all these things that we want our government officials to do, the one thing that's paramount is the safety of the American people. And that is not from external or international threats, but it can even be from domestic threats. And instead of calling out certain groups of people or demographics, whether it be white supremacists or black people in general, or Hispanic people or Asian people who are running scams, or people from other countries, what about just making the country with certain apparatuses in certain cities and states and regions and areas safe by using technology, where we can track down these people who are committing these crimes? What about that? Where were those billions of dollars that we're going to save if we can ever stop funding other countries' foreign wars? America is changing. America is changing so much that America is no longer America. What is America? What is the American dream? America is changing very vastly. Let me give you an example of what I'm referring to, and then I'll leave you guys with this, because maybe you're not understanding what I'm referring to. Remember when the Democrats was in office and they were allowing illegal immigrants who are not citizens to be police officers? Well, I have another story for you guys, and instead of talking through this piece, let me show you guys a video clip because I want to know your thoughts on it. Leave it in the chat that we're here live, or leave it in the video after it posted in the comments below. But I want your thoughts on this because this is very intriguing. This is very, very intriguing that we have allowed other countries to come in and change the very culture, the very fabric of what we call America. Let me show you guys this very quickly here. I want you guys to listen in on this and see your takeaway. Let me hear your thoughts. Let me know your takeaway on this because I think this is important as well.
إذا ممكن تعرفنا عن حالك؟
طبعا اسمي أديب كنيس. أنا أصلي من فلسطين، مواليد هاي البلد، وهي بشتغل بشرطة باريسون.
اللي لفتني أنا بلباسك أو الزي الرسمي حاطط علم فلسطين، يعني فاهمين كيف؟ فيك تحكي لنا شوي يعني ليش حاطط العلم وفيدباك من الزملاء تبعك لما شافوا هالعلم؟
طبعا احنا بنمثل طبعا أصلنا، طبعا أهلي فلسطينية، أنا فلسطيني، بحب بعشق بلدي كمان فلسطين.
فيك تحكي لنا قديش صار لك مع الشرطة بباترسون وشو اللي خلاك يعني تنضم لشرطة باترسون؟
هلا أنا داخل بالسنة الثالثة مع الشرطة، اللي خلاني أنضم إحنا عندنا جالية عربية كبيرة.
نعم.
بدنا نشارك طبعا في الحكومة وفي هاي الشغلات في الدوائر مشان يطلع لنا اسم.
نعم.
يعني يصير لنا صوت بالولايات المتحدة.
نعم.
والحمد لله.
That part right there. He says, we want to be in the government. Now, this is a police officer in the United States of America speaking Arabic. And I don't care. I don't care what country he's from. He can be from China. He can be from Malaysia. He can be from anywhere. He can be from South Africa. He can be from Australia. He can be from Canada. He can be from Central America, South America. He can be from Antarctica, but there's no countries in Antarctica. But nonetheless, the point I'm making here is he's speaking Arabic from what I understand. And he is a U.S. local police officer where he is, and he stated that we have a large Arab community. And on his U.S. police officer uniform, he has a Palestine flag, not a U.S. flag, not his state flag, not his city flag, but the country where he derives from. And this is what I'm referring to, whether it be Latin America, Middle Eastern Americans, Asian Americans, they come here, they infuse them, they go to one neighborhood, they go to one city, they go to one area, and then people start to move from those areas because they see how the community is changing. So they move out. Then they start to take over those governments and they change the laws. And they change the laws. In this case, I would like to believe whether it be Islam or Buddhist or Hindu with Indians from India, they go in, they take a lot of these government positions because they want to govern themselves because the majority of the citizens are from India. The majority of the citizens are from Yemen or Palestine, whatever. The majority of the citizens are from China. So now they want seats on the board of the government. Again, this is America. And Americans have allowed this. And all of these states and cities in these constitution, so people from other countries, just because we've allowed a lot of mass immigration to come in to change the very fabric of America, because a lot of these states, you're going to go in a lot of these cities, you're going to be riding through like, what a Palestinian flag? What is a Chinese flag doing, waving? What is going on here? And when you decide to live there, and some of you may not even know, you're just going to pop up in a city where 80% of the people are there from China, 80% of the people are there from Australia, 80% of the people are there from Ireland. America is no longer becoming America. And people say, well, America's a country of immigrants. No, it isn't. It's becoming America. It's becoming a country of immigrants. Now I can give a whole breakdown and ideology of what I refer to that, but it would just go too long. I'm gonna let the video finish for you guys who really want to see this. But again, this is exactly what I was referring to.
باريسون يعني بيحترموا العرب، بيحترموا الميدل ايسترن كلهم، يعني بيلبوا لنا كثير طلبات، بيساعدونا كثير في اي حاجات زي هاي في باريسون بيلبوا لنا اياها. They make it possible.
كشرطة باترسون وكعرب تقريبا قديش في يعني عناصر من الشرطة بالعرب موجودين ومن اي جنسيات او باك جراوندز؟
في بحدود 15 شرطه عربي.
والله
يعني فلسطينيه، اردنيه، كثير احيان بصير في ناس ما بيعرفوا يحكوا انجليزي، سو بيطلبوا على الشرطي بيحكي عربي. هلا الحلو برضه في الجاليه العربيه بصراحه ما عندنا كثير مشاكل، يعني ما بصير مشاكل كثير.
نعم.
فالشرطه بحبوا بيحترموا العرب هون، لانه يعني مش تبعين مشاكل.
بتنصح اللي عم يحضرونا ينضموا للشرطه بشكل عام كعرب؟ دائما في خوف بيقولوا شرطه وما شرطه وهيك.
شوف يعني الحمد لله هي شغله كويسه كثير، خطوره في خطوره بس يعني المستقبل كويس، واذا بدنا يعني نعمل اسم لحالنا لنفسنا مثلا is my country مثلا نخدم هلا.
That last bit that this is our country and we have the right to serve, and they briefly show the American flag and then they cut it off. This is our country, we have the right to serve. Now, don't get me wrong, there's many people from around the world that have come to America and become American citizens. But when you are in uniform and the national language of America is English, okay, and finally Donald Trump has passed. I don't know why any other president haven't passed that, where everyone knows that at one point in time that America was a English or British penal colony. No, that's Australia. But we were a colony of England. We had 13 colonies, but nonetheless, we've gained our independence 1776, July 4th. But our national language is still English. But he's in a U.S. police officer uniform doing an interview speaking Arabic. You guys have a great, wonderful morning. This is Blacklogic.